episode 5 of Circle Craft Podcast. I won't go on too long. I have Kitfox Design Group with me. We have a great episode ahead. Go ahead and check it out. We will have links afterwards with everything we discuss, and let's jump into it. Okay, so I just want to go ahead and introduce. This is Sara and Charlie from Kitfox Design Group, and he also has his own company, Arcane Concerted. But first, we're going to just focus on Kitfox. Sara is the Chief Creative Officer and, of course, the professional dog petter per the bio. And Charlie is the Chief Operations Officer and Sandwich Fingerer. What the hell does that mean? Sandwich Fingerer? Psychopath. You're a psychopath, dude. You're insane. Well,
one of my favorite pastimes is ruining people's sandwiches, and it just happens to work where you just stick your finger in the center of somebody's brand new fresh sandwich they just made. It turns out it makes people really mad and like really disappointed.
That's awful.
So
yeah, I put it on the website as a complete joke, and I guess however many months later we are from that.
That's hilarious. No, I would totally leave it. Like I read that and I was like, oh, it's a sandwich finger, like finger sandwiches, and I was like, okay. And then I went back and read it again, and I was like, oh, hold on a second. Sandwich finger. That sounds like kind of deviant behavior. Like, what is a sandwich finger? I was like, I'm going to purposely say this just to bring it up. But but these guys are awesome. They have just such cool products, and we're definitely going to jump into it. Before we get too far in, and I'll let them introduce themselves, but we'll do a quick little lightning round, and you guys both can answer because they're kind of just funny, little quick questions. So I'll start off with the first one. What is your favorite horror movie?
Man, that's a tough one. I like more psychological thrillers. I don't watch too much horror. What about you, Sara?
As far as I don't know. I grew up, I really enjoyed Lady in the Water and The Village, watching that with my dad. And so I think those two, as far as scary movies and frightening movies, would have to be the top two for me.
Absolutely. M. Night Shyamalan. I used to, The Village, I remember seeing the cover for it. It terrified me. And I'll say a quick little story, because I consider those horror movies. Those all kind of bind in, but that's when he was really on his kick. He was doing these just crazy good movies, back to back to back, and he was doing a good job. I have a small funny story, and it was with Signs, the movie Signs. So that movie still frightens me to this day.
Absolutely. I vividly remember.
I think everyone has that same, there's one scene specifically that everyone, I'm just talking about them getting goosebumps. I hate that scene. It's that scene where they're watching it. It's in Mexico, or I think it's in Mexico or South America, and they had the still frame where he walks. Oh my gosh, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Where he walks right by the camera, and they still frame, and you see him looking at the camera. It's like the Bigfoot scene almost. Oh my God, it gives me nightmares. My dad, so he knew I was watching it, and I was pretty young when I was watching it, and he knew I get spooked easily with stuff like that. So he sneaks out of the house, and my room itself was in the very, very front of the house, and it had huge windows. So as soon as he knew I was watching it, he came up and he just banged really hard on the window, and I must have been maybe 10 or something like that. I just absolutely screamed. I didn't yell, I screamed. But yeah, those whole set of movies were awesome, and I love them looking back, and I still watch them. But
there's a scene in Lady in the Water that my dad, it was notorious. Anytime I had friends over and we were watching it, he would always position himself near the friend that hadn't seen it before, so that way when she bursts out of the water, he could just grab their arm. And it just, he's a dick.
I think everyone's parents had some little thing where they do something like that. But okay, we'll go ahead and do the next one. This is more kind of our field. What gun are you hoping to buy soon, if you are looking to buy one?
Oh man, that's a good question. I just happened to I don't know. I kind of scoop them as they're available.
Sure.
Next on my list is actually your Glock, if all things work out. Other than that, big gun purchases, I'd really like a Bushmaster ACR. Don't ask me why. It's I've never been a real big fan of the Scar, but this is just similar enough to the Scar with the features I like on the Scar, but in the Bushmaster. And so that one's kind of been on my list for a while. But I just picked up an AK-74. I just got my 300 Win Mag build finished for a precision rifle. So that's kind of next on the list.
That's awesome. Anything
I don't know. I even have it's so bad. I make gun patches and I don't even have like a daydream list of guns. I think just finishing my AR pistol would.
No, you were saying you wanted Tommy to build you an AK.
Oh yeah, I want my brother to build me an AK, but that's not like a daydream. That he's just really good at building AKs, and I just don't. There's so many people that are like having him do it. And I'm like, you're before me. That shouldn't be how it is. So, I want one of my brother's AKs, but outside of that, I guess.
That's pretty cool.
Really.
I think there's probably one platform that I haven't just really researched enough to really get into it, just because I know it's kind of like hit or miss on some stuff, but I'll have to I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, I've just recently been getting into them. Just the reliability, the ammunition availability, the functionality of them. They're just almost indestructible. It was something I always kind of stayed away from. I was always very hardcore AR platform, and then being in the military and everything like that, I was very, very much straight and narrow with the AR. Like nothing could beat this. But I did more research. I watched Tommy build a few of them. I shot a few of them. Got to play with some Filatos, and like I don't know, there just hasn't been a whole lot of looking back. I still love my ARs, and I have probably 4 or 5 of them. But I've just been getting into AKs more. Just the versatility of them and everything like that is so much fun.
Yeah, I don't know. More or less for me is my brother's passion for them made me kind of just like, I don't know. There's a little interest. Anytime he pulls out the Filato one, I'm like, okay, I have to play with that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. All right. What music have you been listening to recently, or any kind of artist or musician that you've just been jamming to?
Let me pull up my Spotify real quick.
Sure.
We'll laugh about this together. So in liked songs, right now my most recent, it goes from this guy named Breakence, Brakence. It just has kind of a different vibe.
Sure.
The next guy on the list is Sewer Person.
And right.
Yep, he does kind of like emo rap, I guess you could call it, alternative rap. And then next is Spoken Word Poetry by Neil Hilburn. Then I have some City Morgue, Childish Gambino, Head PE. Then there's some Ghetto Boys, Mop, Busta Rhymes, Mobb Deep, Wu-Tang.
Yeah, there you go.
Old Dirty Bastard. Then there's it's just such a mess of different music.
His music taste, like you can get in his Jeep and he'll throw something different on every single time you get in.
It is weird. So like one of my favorite examples, I'll scroll down a little bit. You'll go from like indie punk to classical Beethoven or something like that to just absolutely ratchet trap music.
What's that one that you were playing for a really hot minute?
What do you mean?
It was an 80s song, wasn't it?
Oh, there might have been Mary Happy. I played that one a lot.
I don't know. Mine is all pretty much the same. It's like NF, Mac Miller, some Reliant K, and Childish Gambino. Like that's a majority, and like 1 or 2 Machine Gun Kelly, which is kind of embarrassing. But
no. I'm kind of like Charlie. I like you said, you can get in the car one day, and then like, by the time you get out of the vehicle, we've switched about 4 different genres, and I think a part of it's just like the ADD too. So like I'll get like 45 seconds, I'll hear like my favorite part of the song, and I'm like, okay, next song. Well, let me go move on.
Yeah.
I'm listening to like like just old classic Western like folk, and then all of a sudden I'm listening to 3 6 Mafia, and then I'm like, man, that kind of reminds me of that Biggie Smalls song. So like I go play Biggie Smalls, yeah, and then like I just
exactly.
I remember I'd heard. Oh no, I was listening to oh my gosh, was the space movie Interstellar. The soundtrack, actual stellar like concert soundtrack to that. It's actually incredible. But like I think it's like. Yeah, I was gonna say like I think Garand Thumb. He uses the background for some of his videos occasionally, and like I think I saw it in the morning, and I was like, damn, it reminds me to go back and listen to that. So like like you said, you're like all over the place. So that's pretty cool, man. That's awesome. I know I just can't stay still with music too. All right.
For a little while, I was helping some friends write music too, and one time they actually got me drunk enough to be on a track myself, and
that's awesome.
That's out there floating around. If you can ever find it, I'll give you $100.
Or you could just ask me nicely and
No, don't.
So
That's cheating.
okay, man, I feel like I have like some kind of story attached to it, but I don't like. I keep going too far off, and I'll go on a tangent. But let's just keep going. That's like it's like so similar. Like I have a story from high school like that, but I'll just stick with the path, because we'll never get it out of like lightning round. It's like not even lightning round. It's like thunder round. But okay, so this is just a general. I have just a couple silly questions. Most overrated condiment, like ketchup, mayonnaise.
I hate mustard,
I think,
especially spicy mustard.
I don't know. I think all condiments have their place, but the most underrated is horseradish.
Nope.
That's hilarious. That's good.
Nope. I have a really, really bad memory attached to horseradish.
That's pretty much the exact kind of response I was hoping for. So I don't really like condiments to begin with, but I hate mayonnaise for some reason. I don't know. It's like something buried in my childhood. But
if I had to pick one, I'd probably mayonnaise.
Yeah. So another question, another silly one is, do you believe in Bigfoot?
My mom would disown me if I said no.
That's pretty cool.
I
like the thought.
I believe in the.
It's I don't know. I was just thinking through random questions, and the horror movie made me ping off on it. And then,
yeah, no, like straight up, like you could bet money that when I was in college, my mom was back home sipping wine out of a coffee cup and watching a Bigfoot TV show, like it was like clockwork.
I feel like everyone's had like that series in their life where they kind of like, maybe he is real.
Like, oh no, hers is like a lifetime thing and it's just never gonna end.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool though. Like, I mean, I feel like that's something fun to have to believe in. That's like my younger brother. His dad is same way. Absolutely. My younger brother's friend, same way. Is completely diehard. Absolutely, there's no way he's not real. So that's pretty cool. This is what I'm kind of interested in, because I think maybe you guys will disagree on. So with the new release of the Ford Bronco, and it's aimed at competing with the Jeep Wrangler. What do you guys think? Jeep versus the new Bronco?
I'm trading mine as soon as I can, bro.
I've already reserved mine, and like I think that I was surprised to beat him to reserving one.
Dang,
I'm not gonna lie. I'm straight impressed with it. I worked for FCA for a little while doing sales. I sold tons of Wranglers because there was nothing on the market that could compete with it, in my opinion. And just the rework of the Bronco, man, and all the features in it, it basically took all that was wrong with the Jeep, fixed it, improved upon it. And aside from the independent front suspension, I think that's my only complaint. Aside from that, though, dude, the Bronco took everything wrong with the Jeep and improved upon it and made it sleeker and cleaner, in my opinion. People can argue with me on that, but I love the Bronco. I love what they did with it.
I think it was very tastefully done. And from a creative perspective, looking at the older photos and just like concept drawings of the older Broncos compared to what they developed, I think they couldn't have done a better job to re-release it the way that they had. It really just kind of tied back into the old heritage of what the Bronco is, while also like tapping into, like Charlie said, they took everything that people were complaining about with the Jeep, thought about it, reimagined it, and then applied it in a way that isn't copying a bunch of other things. It's like, fresh. So I was really impressed.
Yeah, I do agree. And I think it's good for the market regardless, because now it keeps Jeep on their toes, and that makes them want to improve whatever their product is. So moving forward,
more competitive market,
exactly.
Important.
Yep, and then that makes them both kind of keep, and then hopefully that'll keep the prices in line too. So we're not seeing these prices just go through the roof with Wranglers or Broncos. I know it pains me because I got my new Jeep last year, but I was like, okay, I'll see if they announce it this year, and if they're going to announce the new Bronco this year, last year, I'll wait it out. I can wait to get a Bronco. And then they said they're going to push it back another year, and I was like, okay, this is the same story for like 2 years. I was like, okay, I'm moving on. I'm gonna go and get it. Like they'll never end up launching it. And of course, when the next following year, I was like, oh my gosh, I know, I really do like them. They're pretty cool.
I think you and I briefly talked about it because I was going to go from my my little Cherokee and get a JK, and I was pretty hell bent on that for a hot minute. And then I was like, I thought about it, and is it responsible right now for me to get a whole new car payment? And I knew about the Bronco potentially coming out. I'm like, even if it is next year, I should just save my money. Then I can try and pay as much up front. And then sure enough, as soon as I watched that video, I was like, I am so glad I didn't get into a JK right now, because I would just be not upgrading or doing anything, because it would just be planning on getting the Bronco. So
yeah. And I bought my JL last spring. I bought it in, I think, the end of March, beginning of April, somewhere in there. And I've loved it. I've beat the shit out of that poor thing. I mean, and it's been great to me. But there's things that it does lack, and I think the Bronco has those things at a better price point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree totally. I also and this is some Jeep people will probably be different, but I think I like the colors on the Broncos. The colors they released for the Broncos are just so much better. Like across the board, like they just nailed it. Like, I mean, there's a couple colors in the Jeep that are really nice, but there's always like three that are like, unless I'm driving like a Lamborghini, I'm not going to get that color.
Right.
But the Jeep, the new Bronco colors are just, they're awesome. Like, I think
tasteful.
Yeah, they are. They're
super
nice.
Well, and I think that's another thing that really ties back. They may not be copying the older Broncos, but I think it kind of ties back into this. Like, it feels like a memory when you look at those colors.
Sure.
Or at least it does to me. So,
familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like it's. I like how they didn't use the same colors that with the rest of the Ford line. They have their own color line too. So it's not like it's typical. So yeah, I'm almost kind of like upset because like a part of me is like, oh man, I don't know. Like, oh, we'll have to wait. My wife is completely in love with them. She's like, yeah. She's like, as soon as we can, I want to get one. I want one so bad. Like, we'll trade the truck in.
At least you have that going for you.
Yeah. I immediately reserved one. I was like, what do I have to lose really? And now I have like a physical goal that I can, work on throwing money into a savings account towards. So.
All right, so we'll go ahead and move out of that, and we'll focus on Kitfox. So I'm going to let you guys tell your piece and tell a little about yourselves and a little about the company, just a base round background, and then we'll get into some more details and kind of just let you go off on that, and then we'll just spin off. All right, so go ahead and start off.
Awesome.
And go into your
Well,
thing.
I'll give you the pitch because Sarah doesn't know how to pitch her own company.
So bad at it.
So here's the pitch I throw at most people. We're a marketing design company that focuses primarily on marketing tools for larger companies. So things such as patches, pins, stickers, anything like that, designing or helping design and rebrand logos and things like that. So things that people really see and touch, we help design and manufacture and everything like that. So I'll let Sarah give some background on her company, how she got started and everything like that. But that's how I pitch the company to everybody.
He introduced me to some family a few weeks ago, and they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" I'm like, "I'm an illustrator." And then I just stand there, and then he starts on his pitch. I'm really bad at selling myself, so that's why I hired him, though.
That's awesome.
Kitfox I basically started my own company right out of college in the end of 2012, and it was just this little rinky dink, doing logos mostly for family who were so gracious enough to pay me a couple $100 here and there. But then back in like 2015, I was living in Idaho, and I was home alone for the weekend and kind of bored. And I had 1911 followers on my Instagram. So I thought, I should just illustrate a 1911. I love, Illustrator, haven't been in it. So I did. And it kind of took off. I got reposted by a lot of my friends in different companies. And Griffin Industries most notably reposted me and was like, just super encouraging. And I was like, this is kind of fun. And, so I did a couple more illustrations and mostly in the beginning, I was just doing like custom wall art for people with their EDCs, because people are so obsessed with like the knife that they carry and how they kind of, set up their Glock, and they carry, this thing on their key ring. Their wallet's super cool. So they also want that on the wall. And I did some of that, and like it just kind of progressed from there. And then one day, Amy from Tactical Solutions was like, "Hey, we want to have you do one of our guns, but like, I don't know what we could do with it. Like, what can we do with it?" I was like, "We should make a patch." And she's like, "You think so?" And so that was like the very first gun patch that I did. And a lot of other people were occasionally doing gun patches, but they just weren't like they weren't the same when mine came through just because of how high detail my illustration was. It like looked like a miniature gun. And it kind of blew some minds at SHOT Show, and it just kind of tumbled from there. Like it was a complete accidental, like, hey, what should we do with this artwork that you've created? And it blew up. That was like SHOT Show, I think 2016. And I continued doing a handful of different illustrations, but nothing too crazy. And then I illustrated an entire coloring book because I'm a psychopath. In about 12 to 14 days, I illustrated like a 36-page gun coloring book that blew up, got me interviewed all over the place, including Forbes.com and NRA's channel. I don't even remember if they're even still doing that.
Yeah.
But it just kind of, I think, put Kitfox on the map as far as with, bigger companies. Barrett ended up getting one of my coloring books. Chris Barrett got one of my coloring books at a industry event thing he was attending and threw it on his marketing girl's desk and said, I want to be in the next one. So it just kind of spiraled from there. We got involved with some bigger name companies and doing some patches and did a second coloring book. And now I've got like probably 50 or 60 patches on our patch panel and tons of super cool clients.
With some major players in the game like Zev, Aimpoint, Barrett, just to name a couple. Tactical Solutions, like she said before. Just a lot of really cool people, and talking with other companies currently. We actually just Sara designed the camouflage for the new Vickers Guide
that's
AR-15
awesome.
complete book, volume 2, available for pre-order now.
There you go.
She designed the camo, kind of a homage to the old tiger stripe. It's historically accurate tiger stripe, but it's a completely new pattern. So I thought that was really cool. And then we're doing a couple patches with Vickers as well that are also available for pre-order when you buy the book. So
that's very
just
cool.
Lots of cool stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was about to say I was actually going to bring up some of those things, but you just nailed them on the head. So that being said, where can you pre-order the Vickers Guide? Is it just on Vickers'
So
site?
it should be on Vickers' website. Let me pull it up just to make sure real quick.
And I'll attach it to whenever we post everything.
Yeah. Vickers Guide.
Yeah, that was a super fun project. It was super, super involved. I don't think James really expected how heavy I was going to get into it, but I turned into like a psycho when it came to studying the different, colors and just every little detail. Because there's different little shapes that are in certain year ranges in the tiger stripe camouflage. And so we wanted it to hit a certain period where some of the contributors had been in Vietnam. And in order to do that, I had to buy books. I had to do all this online research. We had color references because some of the guys had actual pieces of camouflage that they were able to send me natural light photos so we could get as accurate as possible to the pattern, to the colorway. It was so cool.
I mean, that doesn't really put it into perspective of how much work you actually put into it too. That's right. That's insane. So I mean, it's almost like a research project at that point. It's not even
it entirely was I think I don't even know. I think I worked on the pattern itself, just here and there, making notes for a month and a half, and then it was almost another 3 weeks of just digitizing shapes and putting everything together and just agonizing over every little detail. And then
on top of it, she made it a repeatable pattern too. Yeah, awesome. So that adds a whole nother layer to it.
That is incredible. That's amazing. And I'll make one little thing about that. Just the fact that how much skill you have and how naive I am about how difficult it is. You can't just pick these projects up. So I had seen there's several companies who've done something similar to you, but yours has always been the best. Like you said, you even said it yourself on the detail, and I had noticed the same thing. I had never really been into patches, and because I'd see some of them, and they almost seemed, I want to say not childish, but they just seemed cartoonish, I guess is the way.
Right.
Like you said, there's just some of the details missing, and I just think I was like, whatever, it's not a big deal. And then I saw one from yours, and I fell in love with it. I was like, man, that's really cool. It's size-wise, it's the perfect proportions, and et cetera, et cetera. And I ended up getting one. I think it's actually the Law Folder Mark 18. I've got one, and I actually have a sticker of it on some kind of drink, I think, somewhere. Got it. But yeah, it's just interesting to bring that up. But back to how naive I was. But I figured, I was like, man, I can dedicate like a weekend and I can start trying to do these factors. And no, you cannot. It's not that easy. It's incredibly difficult. And I mean, Photoshop to me was a little easier, but I think even Charlie has said that you actually hate Photoshop, but you love doing the vectors. And I found the vectors like almost infuriating. Like I think I uninstalled it at one point just out of like pure frustration. But it's incredible. It takes a lot of skill to do that and patience.
I remember vividly one of my dear customers, Dave from ZevTech. We'd always been kind of flirting about working together. And one day he calls me. He's like, Sarah, I have to apologize. And I was like, why? Like, why would you ever have to apologize to me? He's like, well, I fucked up. And I was like, oh, and he's like, I tried to have my guys do what you do. And I was like, oh, okay. He goes, they can't.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and I guess it basically comes down to like too many people got put into designing a patch and they design the patch. I illustrate the gun. Like I could print out any one of my illustrations and we could hang it on the wall and you could stare at it all day long. And if you find something wrong with it, like I'll straight up give you a $10 bill because we've poured over and over and over and over again on these images. And so like I make the art for the art and then the patches are just like a secondary thing that come out of it. But I think that's the major difference between, my work, and not to say anyone else's work is better, worse, whatever. It's just different.
Yeah, it's the quality that you put into it. You can tell. It's not someone who's doing it as a hobby compared to where you're passionate about it and you put the time into it, like you said.
Yeah.
I can tell. I mean, it's incredible. Like I'm like looking at a couple of them, and I think I've got one from another company. It might be one of the, I don't know who that is. It was one of the older ones I had gotten, like one of the ones I found later on. Like I think you guys were actually out of stock of the one I wanted, and then I found someone. It's like one of those things, like it just sits unsettled. And it's like, man, I wish I should have not been slack about it and got it. But it's cool, and I love them. I do. For some reason, I am attached to yours, especially with the gun patches, just because, like you said, the detail. But that being said, on patches, what would you say is your favorite patch, or each of you? Which one's your favorite?
My current favorite patch has to be the new Law Tactical one. And we've got a few that are like we hit a slowdown with COVID. I ended up hitting pause on most of our projects because I just didn't want the quality to go down for my customers.
Sure.
And we have a lot, I think like 4,500 patches of various designs coming that are all going to be super cool. But the current ones that people can look at right this minute, I think the Law Tactical is probably my favorite.
That's awesome.
How about you?
I'm kind of partial to the saw. I can't lie. I was a saw gunner for a while. I humped that hunk of shit that was jumped into Iraq in 2003 for miles and miles, shot thousands upon thousands upon thousands of rounds through it. It was just, I don't know, that gun is like second nature to me. I know in and out of that gun, and that gun has a special place in my heart. So even though the saw patch wasn't the exact saw I carried, that one still has a special place in my heart, just because it brings back all those memories and all those good times, horrible times, and even worse times, and that stuff.
I gotcha. Have you you probably haven't, but I'll ask because if I say you haven't, and then it turns out you have you ever been to one of FN's sites and checked out any of their stuff?
So we haven't been to their sites. I stopped by their booth at SHOT Show.
Didn't you get yelled at?
Yeah, it was funny. So I just wanted to handle the saw, man. It's going back, just that second nature of it. I walked up to it and I cleared it because that just out of instinct. And the guy was like, "We don't really like people touching it who don't like work at the booth." And I was like, "Okay, man, all right, whatever." And I just kind of like walked away. I was like, "I'm not even gonna like pull that. I was in the army. I know what I'm doing." Every guy is like that, seems like. So I was just like, you know what, whatever. That's all right. But that's the only experience I've really had with FN outside of my carrying the saw.
Sure. It's funny. So I had to go through one of their armorers courses. I think it was last year, and
Okay.
with doing the armorers course, I ended up because actually the factory's in Columbia. It's in South Carolina, so it's not far at all. And they were able to give us a tour of the manufacturing. But the cool thing was they actually let us see the manufacturing process of the saw at some point, like where the actual shell itself. It's one for one. So if the actual casing for the actual saw itself, like so, any part of the receiver, if it's not from the same block, it has to be thrown away. So if something gets mismatched, it'll never operate 100% efficiently. And they were going over some of the blueprints and stuff like that, and saying like, this is how we keep winning the contract, because no one can duplicate it, because just how they do it in house in the operation.
Right.
But that'd be cool if somehow you guys come down this way. I'm sure I could find some way somehow to get you to check it out and stuff like that and get a tour.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
I would never turn down a tour of something like that. That would be super rad.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think I still have one of the guys' cars who kind of went through everything and said if you need anything. And they offer tours anyways. Probably not so much right now, but I'm sure when it calms down, that'd be cool if you guys ever have a trip down the southeast for any reason. We'll try and figure something out. That'd be really cool. So you can get to handle one. You get to see it and check it out and see how they're put together. And then they have contracts now for the M4 and the M16 as well. So they're doing all that stuff in house. It's all right there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, the M4 I actually carried before I was a saw gunner was an FN M4. It was interesting because going into the military, I really didn't have a lot of experience with guns. I shot a shotgun once or twice, but that was really about it. And I got my issued M4 after I got to my unit and stuff. I was a rifleman, and I looked at it. I was like, I thought the military used Colts. What is this? And then so I went home that night and did like a little bit of research, and I was like, oh, I guess they use a couple different types of rifles. And I was like, well, little old me, so innocent and unknowing.
That's pretty funny. I'm kind of the same way. It's kind of like one of those, like, you don't even know until somehow it slaps you in the face, or you make yourself like an idiot after like, exactly. There's always been Colt. That's period, So it is what it is. It's one of those things. But so you may not be able to answer this because you don't want to show bias. But what is one of your favorite companies? And you've kind of touched on it. You said that you really enjoyed the Vickers project. But is there a favorite company or someone you've worked with that's just a lot of fun to deal with that you've had a chance to, or
the ones that pay their bills?
No, well,
that's true though.
I do like it when like I send an invoice and all of a sudden like 30 minutes later I get a notification from QuickBooks and it's like so and so's paid, and I'm like, oh holy crap, they're my new favorite customer client. Like this is
Absolutely,
rad.
that's right.
I don't know that I have like a one specific favorite. I think it's more or less just like the vibe some of my clients put off. The more recent ones and the ones like we do the SHOT Show projects for, those tend to be just like, I don't know, they feel like family to me. I can walk up to their booth at any point, like Dave or Jeremy at IWI. Like it just, they're just super like open and chill and like, what do you need? Are you guys good? Do you want a water? And it's like, oh, we're good, thanks.
Right. Like, I mean, the guys at IWI are awesome. We were planning a machine gun shoot for, was it May? We were supposed to have a machine gun shoot in May, and we called up Jeremy at IWI and we're like, hey, is this something IWI would be interested in? And he's like, for you guys, sure, we'll be there, even though it's not your machine gun shoot, but you're inviting us. Awesome, we'll be there.
Yeah.
And we like just stuff like that. We have a lot of clients who are just super awesome to work with. You can reach out to them anytime, and they're just like, hey, how you been? And like, I have friends at Silencer Co, and like they've been on our client books for a little while now, trying to get some stuff worked out with them, and just made good friends like all over the industry that have become more than just clients and have evolved into friendships, similar to how you and I met.
Sure, yeah. That's awesome, man. I mean, that's so cool. I mean, and you guys are both passionate about firearms and everything like that. So I mean, it's like it doesn't get much better. It's like being able to get involved with all these people, help them out, and then also have a great relationship to them with outside of work, without having to have just a professional relationship. Yeah, that's really.
I mean, that's just kind of how Kitfox even grew. Was like I said with Tactical Solutions. Like I had become friends with Amy outside of the gun world. Like I had stopped by their facility and like she and I just clicked, and to this day, I've moved back across the country, and I was just texting her the other day like, oh my god, I love you, I missed you, I can't wait until I can hug you again. And like that, just the firearms industry is just like that. I feel like if you don't get along with people in the firearms industry, it's something about you. It's not like the other people. It's definitely you who's the problem, because everyone is just so open. I don't think Charlie really realized that until we went to SHOT Show.
No, absolutely not. I left SHOT Show with more friends than I had when I got there, and I was just not overwhelmed, but just like almost dumbfounded, I guess, by how welcoming everybody was. Like, oh, who are you? I see you have a Kitfox shirt on, and like people introducing themselves to me and giving me their cards and asking to add me on like Instagram or whatever, and
That's
being
cool.
like, yeah, get a hold of me sometime. And then they actually genuinely mean it, because I'm so used to working in sales. Like previously, I'm so used to people being like, yeah, let's hang out sometime. And you're like, yeah, that's a nice offer, but like nothing ever comes of it. Whereas what I've noticed in the industry is like, I'm friends with guys at Spiritus who are like, hey, anytime you need anything, let me know, and we'll get something for you if we can. Or like just anywhere, man. It's been crazy.
It's super cool, and I think didn't you and Tommy say something about that? Just that like you weren't sure how many people like I actually knew like well enough to just like recognize and say hey to and be super friendly with, and until SHOT Show, until you saw. But it goes back to the industry in general. Like you see someone, you have even like a short conversation with them. Years ago, my very first SHOT Show, I went to some random little get together and talked with like Chris McRae, and he, at the time was at Overwatch Precision. Now he's with Magpul, and we, have grown that relationship and that friendship over the years. And so anytime I see him walking by the booth, like, thumbs up or, peace sign or whatever, everyone just loves everybody. So it's a really super cool industry to work in.
That's awesome.
It's really easy to work in.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, I guess it makes your job easier too at the same time, because other industries aren't always like that. They're always you've got just how people can just clash, no matter, even if they're on the same page or they have the same agreement or the same stance. It's just just because. But that's really cool. So
I mean, people definitely disagree in the firearms industry.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Versus 1911 versus AK versus AR. Everyone's let people enjoy things, and that's kind of where I fall into. Like, people want me to do certain patches, or sometimes they're like, "Oh, why'd you do that?" I'm like, "Because people enjoy it, and that's ultimately what matters." So,
yeah, absolutely. So, and this I should have asked this one actually earlier, but so where did the name Kitfox come from?
So in college, I was always doing things my professors weren't really fond of. Like, I was always pushing the envelope with my projects, and they would always tell me that my work was clever or cunning, and it was kind of like a backhanded compliment. And I always thought that was pretty entertaining. And like I think my dad said something about like, oh, kind of like a fox or something. Like, people like them except for when they're doing like they're in their yard, except for when they're like, I don't know, like invading their privacy. And so I kind of laughed. I'm like, well, it's pretty similar to how my professors feel with my work. Like, it would be cool if it was someone else's student doing that, but you're my student, and you're not doing exactly that. And so that had always been like, that's kind of like a joke. It's my spirit animal in a way. And so I had initially, when I first got out of school, my company's name was Dapper Fox, and I was just doing logos and whatever. And when I kind of fell into the firearms industry, that name didn't exactly resonate with any of the potential clientele that I wanted to work with at all. So I kind of revamped, and I sat down. I was like, at the time, still doing a lot of branding. And for me, branding was kind of, you're equipping a company with everything that they need to go out and do their job. And so it was a kit to me. Like, I was putting together their kit, and it's still that way to this day. Like, we're just doing a different kind of kit. So that's kind of where the name ultimately came from. Just kind of a mashup of college obnoxiousness meets, just trying to prepare my clients the best I can.
That's awesome. And I've always liked the logo. The first time I saw it, it reminded me, and you may have heard of the band. It's called, band name's Amorosa, and they have 2 or 3 albums that are lined up, and they have a similar logo. But it's just, I don't know, for some reason, it always reminded me of it. So every time I saw it, I was like, man, it's such a cool logo. Like I said, just the fox itself. And I just always wondered, like, where it came and pinged up from. That's pretty cool. So it's really personal too. So it's not just
Yeah.
a name that just popped in your head. It's something that actually kind of came together and just formed. That's really awesome.
Yeah, and that little jump fox it had been in my sketchbook since I think 2010 or even 2009. I back when I rebranded everything to Kitfox, I was just kind of digging through all of my stuff and a page just of some random gouache, which is just like a acrylic type watercolor, and I had just painted some stuff with the random blue color I made on this little teeny tiny piece of watercolor paper, and the jump box was one of those things. I was like, that's actually kind of cool. Maybe I should scan it in, and that's that's how the little fox came about too. So
very awesome. Do you still have that?
Yeah, it's somewhere in my stack of papers. I should probably frame it, honestly.
I mean, stuff like that. Always, I'm the same way. It's like, oh man, I need to keep it, and then I never get rid of it, and then I always just forget to actually.
I regret keeping all of my old sketchbooks because they're hideous, but at the same time, I can't bring myself to do anything to them.
Right. So, with that being said, it seems like you did kind of have almost not a bumpy start, but I mean, it kind of seemed like it came together pretty quickly for you too. But would you say what was a big hurdle for you that you found, or anything that seemed difficult?
Honestly, burnout. Yeah, that was the hardest. I don't want to get too into it because it's not what it's about. But I was not in a very good relationship while I lived in Idaho, and I was pushed really, really hard to produce a lot of artwork that I wasn't financially benefiting from at all. In doing that, I was probably putting out 3 or 4 illustrations for patches a month. And just constantly doing that and keeping up with housework and everything. And it was just never, ever could just stop and turn off the computer and sit down and watch Netflix without feeling guilty or being made to feel guilty. And so that ended. I moved home the beginning of 2019, and all of last year I pretty much took off. I played with leather and I hung out with my dogs and brought them swimming and just didn't work at all last year because I couldn't. If I sat down to even try and do anything relatively creative, it was just like I hit a wall.
Yeah.
But then thankfully at the end of SHOT Show patches kind of picked back up towards the end of last year, and clients I had been talking to for a while were like, hey, if you're down, we're down. Worked really hard, got a few cool patches out for a SHOT Show, and it just that passion kind of came back and that drive came back, and feeling good about myself and the work I was doing and seeing how happy people were with the patches I was putting out again kind of just brought everything back. And now I work really, really hard to maintain that. We leave the office, I got an office, a physical office space at the beginning of this year, and we leave it by 6:30 if we're lucky, and try not to go in there for work things on the weekend. If I do, it's vacuum or do random crap I didn't get done during the week. But I do my best to not work on the weekends, and answering emails. If you email me on a Saturday, you probably won't get a response until Monday.
You don't respond to emails on Saturdays.
Yeah, and I don't mind people that do that. It's just you're not going to get a response from me, but it's because I want to be my best, self, whether it's with my business or my personal life. So
absolutely, and I agree with you on that because one, it sounds like that 1 year really just was a good mental hard reset, so it allowed you to kind of just restabilize and get going again. But additionally, like you said, I mean, it's hard. It's very difficult for any person 5 days a week to work for hours upon hours, especially with illustration and doing stuff on a computer, being right in front of the screen and working on those illustrations or researching, and then having to do that for more than 5 days. I mean, really, 5 days is a lot if you think about it.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's difficult. So, but that is.
Well, and it's even now, I still even with Charlie, he's taken on a lot of the client communication, which I posted about on Instagram the other night because I was really being thoughtful about it. But it was hard for me at first, hiring someone, because I was everyone wants to talk to Sara. Everyone thinks Sara is Kitfox. it's super important for me to be the face of this company. And then, I hired him and it was like, oh, wow, this is really nice because I don't have to talk to anybody until it's like really time to, nail down what the project is. And it's not draining me as much. And my clients love Charlie and they're all happy still. And it was a learning curve to me to delegate things. But I think at the end of the day, like, there's no way I'd be where I am right now if I hadn't figured at least that much of my life out. So
that's good.
It really came down to too was telling her like, hey, you have your personal Instagram, you have Kitfox Instagram. You can, I understand that you're the face of your company, but do you want it to be a professional company? Do you want this to grow and like see new clients and everything like that?
Yeah.
Or do you want to keep intermixing your personal life with your business life and everything like that? And I think we've been more successful since then, since like I don't know, I scolded her a little bit and was like, hey, keep your business Instagram business. And like,
I mean, it was just like also hard at the time because I didn't have an office. So it was hard to like share what's going on in my, business because my business was also happening on my couch or in my brother's gun shop. And it just kind of, the lines definitely blurred. But once, I think everything kind of had a nice hard switch once we got into the office. And it was like,
definitely.
All right, this is where work happens and we can share stuff that happens here. What if the dogs are here, then the office dogs are here. We can talk about that too. But the dog thing happens on one Instagram. Sara posts maybe once a week on personal Instagram and, loads up the memes and the stories. But yeah.
Gotta have the memes. Gotta have the memes. Yeah, it's impossible not to, especially now. I mean, it's really the only way get through life or the day these days.
Right.
Honestly, I don't think I would even have continued talking with Charlie if he hadn't just bombarded me with Area 51 memes. So.
Oh man, we'll have to go back and trade some of those. I mean, they're extinct now, but when they came out though, they were funny. Like I remember seeing it like for the first time. I was dying. I think it was the one Queen song.
That was my favorite.
Yeah,
Naruto run.
Oh my gosh,
that one's my favorite.
We'll have to go back and I'll have to go find one because there was still one. It's been a while since I've seen one, but it's still. You can go back and rewatch an old one. And it's just as funny now as like then it was now because now it's kind of died out. Hilarious, but so we'll go ahead and shift gears a little bit, and I think that's the whole thing. It's just so cool, just how everything is self-made. I think that's the coolest part about it, and you guys really have your own thing that you've implemented into it. I will say my favorite products that you've done are the cookie cutters were really cool, like
forgot about those.
that's one of my favorite things, and I'll post a picture or something like that. I'll just show them because they don't get that's just awesome. The Vickers Guide.
That was like a whole joke.
Yeah, I mean it's like it's like a meme in itself, but at the same time,
like no joke. Okay, so the coloring books, I was like, everyone's like, you should make a coloring book, and I was like, well, I've been thinking about it, and I did it, and it did a whole lot better than I thought it would. And I'm like, okay, well, I sold Gun Guys coloring books. What else can I sell them? And I'm like, I bet I could sell them cookie cutters. And so I did, and it did great. And I didn't expect to sell that many, but there are a lot of dudes that like their wives straight up make them gun cookies. That's just hilarious. Because they want them. Like, if I saw like a woman's name come up on the order list, it was usually her buying them because her husband sent her the link.
That's funny. Do you do like a seasonal order, just like around holidays and stuff like that?
So I haven't reordered since the first one. I was just talking to Charlie about it today or yesterday that I should probably work on getting a reorder just because this year I think that they tend to like be more popular towards the end of the year for Christmas. Mostly people who want to piss off their Aunt Karen, but. Overall, like they seem to be more of a family thing that people like to do in the holidays. So they pick up momentum again. I don't know who ends up and like posting more articles about it, but every year it happens. So won't complain.
There you go. That's awesome. And of course, the Vickers Guide I thought was really cool. Like I had never actually heard of it before, and then when you had mentioned it,
really?
Posted it. Yeah, I guess it just kind of like one of those things that just whooshed over my head. I just never paid attention, but. I've definitely am planning to try and snag one, and it's really cool. I mean, like it's just like the detail and everything, and like
the amount of information, man, is crazy in those.
I would be terrified to be inside of Larry's head, to be quite honest. Like it's got to be just a constant like Rolodex of like, you know, he's probably just always thinking gun, because it's just unreal.
Right. I mean, I couldn't imagine. It's extraordinary, and I kind of forget how much stuff he's involved in, and then I kind of I remind myself like the 416. He's involved with Aim Point. I mean, it's like he's all over. I mean, he's all over the place in some of this stuff. It's impressive within itself. That's really cool.
And combining his knowledge of all these firearms with James and his photography skills, like there's a certain way I photograph guns in order to manufacture the patches, because I have a very distinct process I go through to make sure everything is very accurate. And I usually, I require my clients to send the firearms to my brother's FFL because I need to take the pictures. If their marketing team insists on taking the pictures, I charge more for their art fee because it takes me
longer,
probably 5 hours extra just to fix the warp on their photos and make sure everything's technically accurate. Going back to Google, it just isn't worth it. It's just a lot easier in the long run to have them send the gun. And when James was like, oh, well, I mean, obviously we don't have all these guns, so I'll just send you my picture. I'm like, I mean, okay. I had seen his photos. Like he sent me one of the World War II books.
Right.
And then my brother has both of the AK books, and I'd seen his work. I'm like, all right, yeah, I can work from that. When I got the high res photos in my email, I was just like mind boggled, because like I don't know how he does it. It's magic. He's a sorcerer, but they're just phenomenal. Like I want them printed to fill up my wall. Like they're just the best photos I've ever seen of firearms. And so I think the combination of Larry's knowledge and James's skill is just like 1 in a million combination.
That's really cool. I have to stop slacking off and go ahead and get one. As much as the stupid money I spend on shit, I probably should just suck it up, because that's a cool side piece to have, or like on book, or just to scan through.
Oh, absolutely.
I think one of my other favorite ones, other than you guys have so many cool patches, but the patch panel, it's like one of those once just weird occurrences. Like I was literally looking for one because like I just keep getting more and more, and I started collecting them more, and then I was like, man, I'm just like stashing them like in a plastic bag, and like I was looking at the panels, and they all just look cheap and like crappy, and I was like, man, it's just not worth it. And then like sure enough, like one day I just happened to scan, and I saw that you guys were preparing to possibly launch some, and I was like, okay, perfect. That works. That couldn't have been a perfect combination, and sure enough, so as soon as
it's so funny how many people have said that.
Yeah, it's weird. And so I've got one, like I'm looking at it right now. It's right above me, but it's awesome. So I'm hoping I'm gonna try and snag maybe 2 more from you whenever you get them back in. But yeah, they're nice. They're very like everything's solid about it. There's no fraying. There's nothing. They're just really solid. I mean, you can tell they're made. You know,
they were such a pain in the ass to make, and like, oh man,
we definitely. So I grew up sewing and like doing quilts. My grandma taught me how to quilt, and I was like, oh yeah, I got this. This is fine.
It was not fun. I stitched every single one of those motherfuckers.
You're the best ever.
And let me tell you, dude, working with that Cordura, and Sarah ironed the edges and then seamed them.
And Cordura does not iron very well at all.
It does not iron at all. So then trying to do the corners around the edges, and then
not break our non-professional machine. It was fun.
I was sewing for 12 hours a day for like 12 days because we were not ready for launch, and she said a hard date, and I was like, what? You said a hard date? We have 0 of these made yet. We had to just crank them out.
Overestimated our sewing skill sets and time management. I mean, granted, we managed time. We didn't do anything else, and I think after we sent the last one out, we didn't even look at each other for like 2 solid weeks. We're just like, hey, I'm gonna go back to my own house now. Bye.
Yeah, it was.
That's funny.
Man, those things were pile of stress. I'm so happy with how they turned out. I'm glad I was actually able to get one for myself, and yeah, I will not personally be making more of them. We're trying to work on getting something figured out so they're still handmade in the U.S.
Probably by my grandma, because she's way better at sewing than either of us are.
And we're probably gonna instead of doing Cordura borders like that again, where my idea is to do like 2-inch webbing and just fold it over the edges.
Look clean, and
it'll look really good. It'll work just as good.
And we can offer more colors, I think, that way without it being like, because with the Cordura, like I had to order, how many yards of that multicam do we have? Like it was an ass. It was like 50 yards of.
I think it was 25 yards that you had to order.
I don't know.
It was 50.
I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was 50 because they had a minimum order. I was going to order. That's what it was. I was going to order 10 and 10 of multicam and multicam black, but the multicam black was back ordered. So I had to up my order, and then it just made more sense to get 25 yards of the multicam since I was already. It would have been the same as buying the 20 yards. I'm like, well, that's a no-brainer. Like. So it's just asinine. We have a big roll of that left, which is good because it works because he can use it for Arcane. So it's not a total loss, but it just, not doing that again like that. They'll be back. We just have to kind of work on
some technicals.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got one then. But they're awesome. Yeah. I do really like it. I think about half filled out, but I'm going to get one for my brother for when he goes to college. And then, of course, just to have another one just because there's just always cool patches coming out regardless. But we'll switch gears and we'll try and get out of like firearms and try to shift from Kitfox. But what's hobbies outside of work and even outside of the firearm industry that you just are passionate about or that you really enjoy?
I like to garden. I found that during burnout and like even when I was like building up to burnout when I lived in Idaho, like that was my first summer. My last summer in Idaho was my first summer trying to garden and just kind of being able to shut down everything else and be like, okay, how many suckers does my tomato have on it today? And kind of just zone into what my plants need and if they need to be fed and especially at the end of a season, being able to like have armfuls of tomatoes and peppers and green beans is just kind of super fulfilling. Like I made that.
Yeah.
So that's a really fun thing I enjoy. I start planning my garden in like October and buying seeds for it. And then just as early as I can in the spring, start my little plants in my dining room. All my neighbors think I grow pot, but I promise it's actually tomatoes. And then other than gardening, I enjoyed dog training a little bit.
Absolutely.
Or at least playing with my dogs.
Yeah, and I think that's where I think we've kind of touched base a good bit about stuff and training and the stuff that you've been able to do and the cool projects that you've been a part of and all the awesome dogs. It's so weird. Like I think we were talking about it one time, and you sent a picture of Mac, and it was a while back, and I was just like, man, that is just an awesome dog. And you were just talking about it. And you're like, yeah, get in line. Like everyone wants to get him.
No, I kid you not. Like I got that. So Mr. Mac, that is a story in itself. I had a Czech German Shepherd that was living with us. It's very special to Charlie and I. And for personal reasons, she ended up needing to be rehomed to someone with a less stressful like business life. And in the middle of trying to figure that out with my buddy who ended up adopting her, this guy messages me. He had been following me for a while, and I'd seen his puppy, and he asked me for a patch one time. I was like, only if you send me puppy pictures. And so I sent him a patch, and like all of a sudden I get this DM on my personal account, and it was him, and he's like, hey, by the off chance, do you have room? And I was like, holy shit, is this guy going to give me a Malinois? And he had seen like the experience I had with Jazz and with my ex's Malinois, and was just like, I think that you'd be great for him and whatever. So I was like, I mean, I don't right now, but I will in a few weeks. And it's right when COVID started picking up. I'm like, I can't drive to get this dog. And he goes, I'll bring him to you. And I ended up giving him like $100 for gas money for a year-old Belgian Malinois, purebred, great lineage. And I was just like, how the hell did I, what? Like,
yeah, what's going on?
It was wild. And I posted a picture of him and you messaged me and like 5 other people were like, if you ever get rid of that dog. And I'm like, he's a foster, so I don't know what I'm going to do with him, but like, you're not the only person that hit me up in the last 5 minutes. But ended up as you know, he's now with Second Chance Canine with Travis
Right.
Hall in Clarksville, Tennessee. He's going to be trained up to be a service dog for somebody with PTSD and the special operations kind of world and community. So I'm really excited for him. He ended up being the perfect dog for that. He's
That's
just so
awesome.
mild mannered, and he's definitely a Malinois. Needs that mental stimulation. Otherwise, he'll eat out of his crate. But he ended up just he's going to thrive in that environment. So I think that it really worked out well.
That's really cool too. And just to say, just to have self restraint, because you could have easily just said, "Yeah, I'm gonna keep him," just because he's such an awesome dog. But
if I didn't have two like high drive Labradors at home, I absolutely would have kept him, because he like
just awesome.
If he was the only dog in my like personal life, I would have kept him, because he just was that chill, and I could have dedicated all that time to him. But it wasn't fair I walked into it like I promised myself that I would do the very best for him, and also keeping in mind like the most important thing to me is Bubs and Cope and their mental well-being. And I could just tell, like, a month in, I'm like, all right, I love this dog, but like Bubba was just like, why the hell do we have this dog here? Like, all he does is bark at me. I just want to go nap, Mom. And so, just watching them, I knew how much Bubs and Cope needed to be dedicated to them, but also Mac really needs that one-on-one. And so he ended up he's going to thrive being someone's service dog, because he's going to be able to be with this person 24/7. And he's so empathetic and caring. And when I've had anxiety or panic attacks, he knows, and he's tuned in. So I'm really excited to see what Travis does with him.
That's really cool, and we'll link that too, and we'll put that on there so everyone can check that out and see what they do and all this stuff, awesome stuff. Because I mean, that's it's giving a job, it's giving a dog, especially with high drive, a job, and then that's how they thrive, like you said. So that's really awesome, and of course, I would be remiss if I didn't include the two labs, because I remember seeing a picture of Bubs a lot. The first, I think it was not long after you guys got him. I just love that lab. Like, he's got the perfect chunky, English head, but he's got the perfect stance. He's nice and, good body, and he's not fat. He's just, he's just a great fit lab. That's exactly
like the best mashup of like a bench lab meets an American lab, because he's got drive. He can't keep up with Cope. Like, Cope definitely runs circles around him when we're retrieving in the water, but he does. He has the most perfect head. He's got the most perfect soul. Like, he is the best boy, and he loves giving Charlie hugs. Like, Charlie cannot walk into my house without Bubs like literally demanding a hug.
Get up on the furniture when I walk in and stand on the hind legs until I go over there and be like, okay, Bubs, here's your hug. And then he'll put his arms around my shoulders and rest his head on me. And
it's so stupid cute, man.
That's awesome. And then of course Cope is cool too. And Cope being a black lab, he reminds me of my black lab. And I talked about that with you a little bit. And I think it was the other day I actually looked, and then I saw one of his puppy pictures, and I'll have to send you one of my lab's puppy pictures. I'm telling you, they just look, at least at a young age, they just look spot on. So similar.
But yours has normal ears though, right?
He's got a crooked, one of his ears is actually crooked.
Okay. But I mean, like, they're not stupid and tiny like Cope's ears. Like, I don't understand it.
But he has the same tail, like kind of like wiry, like small, like a thinner tail, and he's a lot more leaner. Well, my lab's he's like 9 years old or 8 years old now. But when he was in his prime, I think the picture I sent you was like the best picture of him. To be fair, so anytime I send a picture, it's like that one where he's like perfectly, looks like a stud, but in reality, he's like a giant goofball. But yeah, so even seeing pictures of Cope and seeing him, I just wish my lab had the same drive. His drive is incredible. Like, it's amazing.
I didn't know what I was getting myself into with Copenhagen. Because Bubs was my first lab ever. I did not like labs before I moved to Idaho. I had only ever known like psychotic labs that like their owners put them in the backyard when they had people over because they were just nuts, and they were never hunting dogs, so they never really had like good training. They were just house dogs that didn't have any direction, and I just didn't really care for them. I grew up with German Shepherds, and I was like, I don't know what people like about labs. But then I met a handful that were like actual duck dogs out in Idaho, and like love their owners, were just the snuggliest, best dogs, but then like just absolute machines in the water. And so when my ex calls me up and goes, I brought a dog home. I need you to help me get it out of the car. I was like, what? Go out there and there's this stupid, adorable velvet face yellow lab. And I'm like, okay, we'll see how this goes. He was a terror. He was literally the worst puppy I've ever experienced in my entire life. He peed on, like, going down the stairs, he peed all the time. Like, I vacuumed one time and all of a sudden I look over and he's just peeing. I had just taken him out. He was just like, God. What is that? And just emptied his entire bladder. And I was like, Bubs, like, come on, man. But then all of a sudden something just switched and I don't know what it was. It wasn't like he turned 2 or anything. He was like a 6-month-old puppy. Well, he was probably about 4 months when I got him. And I think it was right around 8 months. Something switched with him and he just was the best dog ever. And I was like, holy crap, I adore this dog. This dog is like my life. And we were best little buds. And I was, back in, what was it, 2018, I was like, I want another Labrador. Like, Bubs is super great, but he wasn't like, he was a great dove dog and like retrieved the hell out of doves. But he wouldn't pick up a duck. And for whatever reason, I was like, I'm going to pick up duck hunting. I've never done it before in my life, but I should just buy a duck dog before I even shoot my first duck. Like that's common, right? Everyone does it. And so I found this breeder. He was like in the same unit as some guys I knew. And so I ended up meeting him and he's like, oh yeah, I have these 2 litters. This one, basically Cope's mom was made in a test tube, essentially. Like he handpicked the sperm and everything and made this dog out of some older, like her parents are long gone. And super intriguing. And I'm like, well, if you really wanted this dog that bad, like her puppies must be great. And so I drove like way the heck out to his house and there were 2 puppies left from the litter. And everything I had read online about picking the perfect bird dog was like, pick the one that wants nothing to do with you, that just wants whatever toy that the breeder has trained them on for hunting. And I'm like, okay, cool. So like Cope was an absolute terrorist to this poor dead duck hen that was out on the porch. Like it was like frozen for training. And he just kept like chucking it across this huge front deck that he had. And the puppy would go run and get it. And the other puppy was like kind of meandering around with other people. And, this puppy just kept going and going and going. I'm like, that's the one I want because I'm nuts. And so I picked him and got him home and he wanted nothing to do with anything else except for me. I was like, this is not what the internet said would happen. Like, not at all. And so his obsession for ducks turned into his obsession for Sara. And in the long run, like we have a really great bond and it worked out. But I wasn't prepared for that. I was prepared for his drive because, like I said, I had experience with Malinois, and Cope is essentially a Malinois with an off switch. Like he'll actually lay down and go to sleep all day long if I need to go somewhere and leave them behind. I don't have to do maintenance exercising with either one of my labs, but when I want to go, they'll go all day with me. So I definitely like. He's a good egg, but I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And when people were like, I want to get a lab, I'm like, check out the bench labs. If you're not active, you don't want a high drive American Labrador.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, yeah. I guess maybe I just have no experience to it. Yeah, I've never seen one quite with his drive. I mean, his drive is it's incredible, but it's good though. I mean, like he's gung ho. But and then Charlie, I think you have a German Shepherd, right?
I do. His name is also Charlie.
Awesome. Yeah, Charlie squared, man.
Yeah. It was actually a funny story how I got him. I moved back to Michigan after getting out of the military end of 2018, and Sara texted me out of the blue after maybe being home for a month, 2 months, and she's like, "Hey, this is gonna sound crazy, but are you looking for a dog?" And I was like, yeah, I kind of am. I've been thinking about it." And she goes, "Okay, well, my friend Sara has a dog named Charlie that needs a new home." I was like, "Wait, fucking run that by me one more time." And then Sara says, "My friend Sara has a dog named Charlie that needs a new home." I was like, "This is too perfect. How can I say no?" So I
That's
had
busted.
to fly down to St. Louis, Missouri to pick up my car that was getting shipped back overseas. And then drove 16 hours or 12 hours out of my way to Fort Knox to visit this dog and fell in love with him. And then was like, okay, I got to make sure this is the right move for me. So I'm going to go home, think about it for a little bit. And then I have this trip planned, blah, blah, blah. Now's not a good time for me anyway, but I'll let you know. Oh, excuse me. So then I got home, thought about it, and I was like, yeah, I want this dog. I love this dog. This is a good dog. And of course, Sarah didn't help any by repeatedly sending me pictures of his adorable little face, saying he misses you and all this stuff. So I was like,
yeah.
all right.
He was sending me like the same pictures and going like, "Have you talked to Charlie?" I'm like, at the time we weren't really like friends. Like we knew each other, but we weren't like tight. To the fact that I wouldn't be like texting you constantly asking if you were going to get the dog. And I was like, I have no idea, dude. Like, text him.
So I ended up meeting her in Chicago and picking him up then, and then taking him back home with me in my Mustang that he barely fits in. This dude is just massive, and I didn't have any other vehicle at the time, so it was just me, him, crammed in my little Mustang in a rainstorm, driving back from Chicago at like midnight.
Dream come true, man. It's match made in heavens. You know, it's destiny. That's pretty cool, man. What's all some like I had asked before, kind of like what's something that you're passionate about or a hobby that's not necessarily in the firearm industry or attached to work? Like what's something that you really enjoy doing?
Escape from Tarkov.
There hasn't been a whole lot right now. I play video games sometimes. I like building computers and stuff for friends. But I mean, outside of work stuff, man, I don't do a whole lot. I like movies. I'm a kind of a movie buff. Me and this other buddy try to watch at least a couple movies a week together. We used to do this thing on Sundays called Sunday Fun Day, where we just watch horrible movies and make fun of them. Kind of like it was basically our own Mystery Science 3000.
That's pretty cool, man.
Theater 3000, excuse me. And we would just do that. But yeah, aside from that, I don't do a whole lot. I go on some camping trips and hiking trips every now and again, but I would really like to get back into weightlifting. I've been losing a lot of weight recently and like not having enough appetite. But yeah, I'm way below kind of like the weight I'm comfortable at and everything like that. So I'd really like to get back into weightlifting. Like while I was around 200 pounds, maybe a little bit more at some times, maybe a little bit less after being in the field for a couple of weeks. But now after getting out of an exercise and diet regimen, I'm probably about like 160, 165 right now, which is just super skinny for my frame. So so working out is kind of like on the agenda.
I got you. I'm kind of with you on that one. Like I was just I think it was right when I was right out of college and as I was trying to find a job or just get work or start something, I just think the only thing that kind of like the mental savior was exercising and working out, and I got in really good shape and all that, and I carried over for a couple years, and then I ended up getting a small injury, and then from there it put me back so far, and then it just like then it became slack, and then it's just like one thing after another. But I'm with you on that.
Right.
One. So it's like I need to get back on track and get to it again.
Right.
That's awesome.
For me, it's just a matter of having the discipline to actually start doing it, and then the just somebody to hold me accountable to keep doing it. That's really.
I mean,
really
I'll hold you accountable.
It's not the same.
It's funny.
It's not the same as like a lifting partner or something like that.
Yeah, it's so weird. I mean, it's kind of similar like that. It's like so. My wife and I kind of like built like a home gym, like a basic. I started getting into like traditional Olympic weightlifting, and I was like, this is a way for me to refreshen up, and it'll be new, and then that'll be more exciting. And like I got everything to do it at home, and then I actually my productivity with it dropped almost to the floor with whenever I started at home. Like it's like you said, it's like I need someone like to help reinforce and accountability. Right. It's like I would go to like the gym not too far, and someone would say, "Hey, you coming in today?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm coming in," and stuff like that. So it's like I felt like I was obligated to go, so that way I would make myself go, even if I wasn't in the mood to do it. But that's pretty cool, and it's funny like the video games. It's like we've been talking about video games for like like 3 or 4 weeks, and we still haven't played a game together.
Yeah,
We keep putting it off, or like you've got some plans, you've got something set up, or I'm doing something, or we just get on different times. So we'll have to.
I'll tell you what. Right now, Siege is downloading on my computer, and that's probably why I'm having issues like hearing you. I'm at 75% right now. I'm at 57.92 gigs out of 77. This file is massive.
It's funny, like I said, it's like so I had like a brain fart the other day, and it's like one of those things like I knew that's how it operated. It was like megabytes and megabits, and then like MB in capital letters, and then like lowercase MB, and I was like, I know what my internet speed is here, and I was like, why is this taking so fucking long? And then I looked at it, and then like it clicked, and I was like, oh man, you know what? I don't have that. That's not my speed per second. It's this. And then like I did the conversion. I was like, okay, so maybe my internet maybe it's downloading correctly. And I was like, damn, that's a big fucking download, like you said.
Yeah.
How long has that been going on this internet?
So this has been going on. So I mean, the last couple days I've had my computer on. But Max actually bought the game for me.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Because he called me and I wasn't home, and I was like, oh man, I guess I'm gonna miss the game on sale, but I'll just buy it. And Max was like, no, I'm gonna buy it for you. And I was like, oh, I mean, whatever, cool, I appreciate that. And so he bought it for me, and then I got back a couple days later and hit start download. And I was like, holy shit, 77 gigs? Okay, whatever. And then it started, and then like I shut off my computer without thinking about it, and then so I had to restart not too long ago.
Oh gosh.
And now I make sure I go in and pause it every time I'm about to shut off my computer, and then whenever I want to get into an online match or something, I have to pause it so I'm not like lagging or anything.
Latency.
It's actually trash, anyways. So.
Right, exactly.
That's awful, dude. So it was like I was actually getting on to my brother because I bought it for him too. I'm forcing you guys to play with me. So it's supposed to come down to. Like I'm buying, like it's like if I buy it for him, he's gonna feel obligated to play the game. That's
exactly.
not true. I don't really care. But but I was like, this will make this way I can have people play it. You can check it out. It's a fun game. But he said the same thing. I messaged him like I bought it from like 2 weeks ago or something like that. I think I got it right after I got it for you, and I was like, well, I'll go ahead and buy it for him on sale too. And so I asked him, I was like, why? I was like, are you not going to play the game, or are you just going to sit there and like meander around on CS:GO? And he's like, dude, it's been downloading forever. I was like, what the hell? I was like, what do you mean you're still downloading it? I was like, dude, it's been days. And he was like, it's a big download. And so it was like, yeah, I was like, okay, fair enough. So that's funny, dude. That's awesome.
I'm excited to play though. I'm really looking forward to it. I've heard a lot of good things.
Yeah, it's a fun game. There's also a bunch of shitheads on it too. There's a lot of toxic ass kids on there, but it's fun to talk shit back too. But it is fun though. It's a part of the game, It is enjoyable.
Absolutely.
But we'll go ahead and kind of start wrapping things up, and if there's any kind of projects or anything you guys have coming up that you guys want to talk about or throw out there or discuss, and I think we hit a lot of it. But if there's anything we missed, possibly.
No, I mean, the only thing really upcoming we have a patch drop coming here pretty soon. We have the Recce rifle that we're releasing. We should have them in hand next week sometime, and then so we'll kind of.
I'm gonna torture all of my followers. Wow.
And so as soon as we get those in hand, we'll figure out a launch date, get them all packaged up and ready to go for our customers, and then aside from that, not.
Pretty much, we're
just SHOT Show projects coming up.
Awesome.
Hopefully, we have 8 slots right now open for SHOT Show projects, and just in the meantime, we'll be still taking on whatever other kind of projects and doing some of our own stuff. I've got a lofty goal of doing 2 to 3 patches a month, just for Kitfox. So we'll see if we can. I don't know that we'll get to that amount, by the end of this year, but hopefully beginning of next year, we'll be able to kick off with some drops. We're doing some more vehicle type patches and hopefully kind of spread the wealth when it comes to the technical illustration.
Sure. So that's awesome. And then again, it's just still, it's so extensive. I don't think it gets enough appreciation. The amount of work that it takes to put into it to get the final product, especially like one that comes up, you just said vehicle, which is the Humvee one. I remember seeing that and I was like, man, that's so detailed. But,
3 or 4 16-hour days in that Humvee, just illustrating. so many grommets, or not grommets, rivets. I say that
Rivets.
wrong every time, but
I knew exactly what you meant though. It's like as soon as you said it, I was like, yeah, that's the right word. And then you're like, no, it's not rivets. And I was like, oh yeah, it's rivets. But
it's the confidence.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Complete confidence, 100%. We'll wrap it up. Go ahead. No, you're fine. But we'll wrap it up here. And I appreciate both of y'all giving me your time and stopping what you're doing and going and talk about everything and talk about your stuff and all the cool projects you guys have been able to handle. It's really awesome. And again, it's I've been really, really excited for this just because it's almost like I've almost too nervous to do it, to be honest. It's like, man, I don't even know where to really start because there's just so many cool things. But that being said, with Kitfox, so many different places you guys are touching on. But on top of that, with Charlie and his own thing he's got going on, his own project, his own group he started with Arcane Concerted, we'll definitely do another podcast and we're going to get on that and we'll focus on that one too, just like this, where he just gave all this focus on this, because it's a really cool, and even though he's connected, he does both. It's a different business. It's not even the same.
Absolutely.
And he's got so many cool things that he's introduced and people are already in their hands on and really using them, and they're being kind of like, it's like they're not really being publicized, but they're there, like they're being used, and as soon as people start figuring it out, like what is that, then that's what I think it'll just completely catch on fire, and it's really cool.
Absolutely.
I like all the stuff that I've gotten so far, and I've been slack. I'm waiting on a handguard to come in so I can actually see what the size I need for it. So I haven't forgotten. I need that. I need the one for the hand. I need a tar grip. But we'll touch base. We'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thanks again, guys, and we'll go ahead and stop right here. That concludes episode 5. Thank you so much for tuning in, checking this out, and of course, give them a follow. Check out all the cool stuff, all the cool projects that they've got coming along at Kitfox Design Group on Instagram, and of course their website. I'll have everything linked that we discussed and all the cool products and everything else that they've worked on and have been a part of. As well, don't forget my Instagram, of course, at CircuitCraft, and we'll have it on the website as well, circuitcraft.com, and we'll end it there. Thanks again for tuning in. Have a nice one. Don't forget to like, share, and we'll have a Q&A coming up as well, and give me your questions. Have a nice one.